manufacturers, then join us. If you believe we should expand Social Security and protect a woman's right to make her own health care decisions, then join us. And yes, believe that your working mother, wife, sister, or daughter deserves equal pay, join us. That's how we're going to make sure this economy works for everyone, not just those at the top. Now, you didn't hear any of this, did you, from Donald Trump at his convention? He spoke for 70-odd minutes, and I do mean odd. And he offered zero solutions. But we already know he doesn't believe these things. No wonder he doesn't like talking about his plans. You might have noticed I love talking about mine. In my first 100 days, we will work with both parties to pass the biggest investment in new, good-paying jobs since World War II. Jobs in manufacturing, clean energy, technology and innovation, small business and infrastructure. If we invest in infrastructure now, we'll not only create jobs today, but lay the foundation for the jobs of the future. And we will also transform the way we prepare our young people for those jobs. Bernie Sanders and I will work together to make college tuition free for the middle class and debt free for all. We will also liberate millions of people who already have student debt. It's just not right that Donald Trump can ignore his debts and students and families can't refinance their debts. And something we don't say often enough, sure, college is crucial, but a four-year degree should not be the only path to a good job. We will help more people learn a skill or practice a trade and make a good living doing it. We will give small businesses like my dad's a boost. Make it easier to get credit. Way too many dreams die in the parking lots of banks. In America, if you can dream it, you should be able to build it. And we will help you balance family and work. And you know what? If fighting for affordable child care and paid family leave is playing the woman card, then deal me in. Now here's the other thing. Now, we're not only going to make all of these investments, we're going to pay for every single one of them. And here's how. Wall Street, corporations, and the super rich are going to start paying their fair share of taxes. This is not because we resent success, but when more than 90% of the gains have gone to the top 1%, that's where the money is, and we are going to follow the money. And if companies take tax breaks and then ship jobs overseas, we'll make them pay us back, and we'll put that money to work where it belongs, creating jobs here at home. Now I imagine that some of you are sitting at home thinking, well, that all sounds pretty good, but how are you going to get it done? How are you going to break through the gridlock in Washington? Well, look at my record. I've worked across the aisle to pass laws and treaties and to launch new programs that help millions of people. And if you give me the chance, that's exactly what I'll do as president. But then I also imagine people are thinking out there, but Trump, he's a businessman. He must know something about the economy. Well, let's take a closer look, shall we? In Atlantic City, 60 miles from here, you will find contractors and small businesses who lost everything because Donald Trump refused to pay his bills. Now remember what the president said last night. Don't boo, vote. But think of this. People who did the work and needed the money, not because he couldn't pay them, but because he wouldn't pay them. He just stiffed them. And you know that sales pitch he's making to be president? Put your faith in him and you'll win big. That's the same sales pitch he made to all those small businesses. Then Trump walked away and left working people holding the bag. He also talks a big game about putting America first. Well, please explain what part of America first leads him to make Trump ties in China, not Colorado, Trump suits in Mexico, not Michigan, Trump furniture in Turkey, not Ohio, Trump picture frames in India, not Wisconsin. Donald Trump says he wants to make America great again. Well, he could start by actually making things in America again. Now, the choice we face in this election is just as stark when it comes to our national security. You know, anyone reading the news can see the threats and turbulence we face, from Baghdad to Kabul to Nice and Paris and Brussels, from San Bernardino to Orlando. We're dealing with determined enemies that must be defeated. So it's no wonder that people are anxious and looking for reassurance, looking for steady leadership, wanting a leader who understands we are stronger when we work with our allies around the world and care for our veterans here at home. Keeping our nation safe and honoring the people who do that work will be my highest priority. I'm proud that we put a lid on Iran's nuclear program without firing a single shot. Now we have to enforce it, and we must keep supporting Israel's security. I'm proud that we shaped a global climate agreement. Now we have to hold every country accountable to their commitments, including ourselves. And I'm proud to stand by our allies in NATO against any threat they face, including from Russia. I've laid out my strategy for defeating ISIS. We will strike their sanctuaries from the air and support local forces taking them out on the ground. We will surge our intelligence so we detect and prevent attacks before they happen. We will disrupt their efforts online to reach and radicalize young people in our country. It won't be easy or quick, but make no mistake, we will prevail. Now, Donald Trump says, and this is a quote, "I know more about ISIS than the generals do." No, Donald, you don't. He thinks he knows more than our military because he claimed our armed forces are a disaster. Well, I've had the privilege to work closely with our troops and our veterans for many years, including as a senator on the Armed Services Committee, and I know how wrong he is. Our military is a national treasure. We entrust our commander-in-chief to make the hardest decisions our nation faces, decisions about war and peace, life and death. A president should respect the men and women who risk their lives to serve our country. Including Captain Khan and the sons of Tim Kaine and Mike Pence, both Marines. So just ask yourself, do you really think Donald Trump has the temperament to be commander-in-chief? Donald Trump can't even handle the rough and tumble of a presidential campaign. He loses his cool at the slightest provocation. When he's gotten a tough question from a reporter, when he's challenged in a debate, when he sees a protester at a rally. Imagine, if you dare, imagine him in the Oval Office facing a real crisis. A man you can bait with a tweet is not a man we can trust with nuclear weapons. I can't put it any better than Jackie Kennedy did after the Cuban Missile Crisis. She said that what worried President Kennedy during that very dangerous time was that a war might be started, not by big men with self-control and restraint, but by little men, the ones moved by fear and pride. America's strength doesn't come from lashing out. It relies on smarts, judgment, cool resolve, and the precise and strategic application of power, and that's the kind of commander-in-chief I pledge to be. And if we're serious about keeping our country safe, we also can't afford to have a president who's in the pocket of the gun lobby. I'm not here to repeal the Second Amendment. I'm not here to take away your guns. I just don't want you to be shot by someone who shouldn't have a gun in the first place. We will work tirelessly with responsible gun owners to pass common sense reforms and keep guns out of the hands of criminals, terrorists, and all others who would do us harm. You know, for decades, people have said this issue was too hard to solve and the politics too hot to touch. But I ask you, How can we just stand by and do nothing? You heard, you saw family members of people killed by gun violence on this stage. You heard, you saw family members of police officers killed in the line of duty because they were outgunned by criminals. I refuse to believe we can't find common ground here. We have to heal the divides in our country, not just on guns, but on race, immigration, and more. And that starts with listening to each other, trying as best we can to walk in each other's shoes. So let's put ourselves in the shoes of young Black and Latino men and women who face the effects of systemic racism and are made to feel like their lives are disposable. Let's put ourselves in the shoes of police officers kissing their kids and spouses goodbye every day, heading off to do a dangerous and necessary job. We will reform our criminal justice system from end to end and rebuild trust between law enforcement and the communities they serve. And we will defend all our rights, civil rights, human rights, and voting rights, women's rights and workers' rights, LGBT rights, and the rights of people with disabilities. And we will stand up against mean and divisive rhetoric wherever it comes from. You know, for the past year, many people made the mistake of laughing off Donald Trump's comments, excusing him as an entertainer just putting on a show. They thought he couldn't possibly mean all the horrible things he says, like when he called women pigs or said that an American judge would be fair because of his Mexican heritage, or when he mocks and mimics a reporter with a disability or insults prisoners of war like John McCain, a hero and a patriot who deserves our respect. Now, at first, I admit, I couldn't believe he meant it either. It was just too hard to fathom that someone who wants to lead our nation could say those things, could be like that. But here's the sad truth. There is no other Donald Trump. This is it. And in the end, it comes down to what Donald Trump doesn't get. America is great because America is good. So, enough with the bigotry and the bombast. Donald Trump's not offering real change. He's offering empty promises. And what are we offering? A bold agenda to improve the lives of people across our country, to keep you safe, to get you good jobs, to give your kids the opportunities they deserve. The choice is clear, my friends. Every generation of Americans has come together to make our country freer, fairer, and stronger. None of us ever have or can do it alone. I know that at a time when so much seems to be pulling us apart, it can be hard to imagine how we'll ever pull together. But I'm here to tell you tonight, progress is possible. I know because I've seen it in the lives of people across America who get knocked down and get right back up. And I know it from my own life. More than a few times, I've had to pick myself up and get back in the game. Like so much else in my life, I got this from my mother, too. She never let me back down from any challenge. When I tried to hide from a neighborhood bully, she literally blocked the door. "Go back out there," she said. And she was right. You have to stand up to bullies. You have to keep working to make things better, even when the odds are long and the opposition is fierce. We lost our mother a few years ago, but I miss her every day, and I still hear her voice urging me to keep working, keep fighting for right no matter what. That's what we need to do together as a nation. And though we may not live to see the glory, as the song from the musical Hamilton goes, let us gladly join the fight. Let our legacy be about planting seeds in a garden you never get to see. That's why we're here, not just in this hall, but on this earth. The founders showed us that, and so have many others since. They were drawn together by love of country and the selfless passion to build something better for all who follow. That is the story of America, and we begin a new chapter tonight. Yes, the world is watching what we do. Yes, America's destiny is ours to choose. So let's be stronger together, my fellow Americans. Let's look to the future with courage and confidence. Let's build a better tomorrow for our beloved children and our beloved country. And when we do, America will be greater than ever. Thank you, and may God bless you and the United States of America.
Hillary Clinton there, America's first female nominee for the White House, wrapping up her speech. She spoke for about an hour here in Philadelphia at the Democratic National Convention, taking applause from this crowd. Her family now making their way up onto the stage. She'll be joined any second by Tim Kaine, her vice presidential candidate, and by the families, and then we'll have the traditional dropping of all the balloons. You can watch them come down in just a second. This is the great celebratory moment of American political conventions. 4 days of speeches have been leading up to this. Hillary Clinton giving her big address, part biography. And there is Tim Kaine. I'm not sure she's seen him yet. She's going to tap him on the shoulder. He's coming out and joining her. Clinton, this was part biography. She spoke about her father and her mother, who had been abandoned as a child. A huge influence, Dorothy, on Hillary Clinton's life. A very strong figure in her life. And then she spoke about herself as a mother and as a grandfather, but she moved on to the policies. It was very much a domestic policy speech with nods to Bernie Sanders as well on issues of income inequality, Wall Street, college debt in America. And then there was a lot as well in the speech that was a takedown of Donald Trump and his foreign policy. At one point she said, Donald Trump, you say that you understand Islamic State better than the generals do. Well, you don't. I'm joined here in Philadelphia at the arena where Hillary Clinton is speaking by our correspondent Kim Katas. Kim, of course, you wrote a book on Hillary Clinton. There's Bill Clinton coming out onto the stage. Did Bill Clinton, we wonder, ever imagine that he would be facing this moment, where it would be his wife who would be the one with the best chance? And there are the fireworks. I'm not sure what the fire marshals are making of this. Kim, what did you make of her speech?
I thought the speech was unusually strong for Hillary Clinton. I've covered her on the campaign. I've covered her as Secretary of State. I think that she usually speaks in prose only. She's not one to use poetry. She actually doesn't like those rousing speeches. It's not her strength. It's not her style. But I think that today they worked really, really hard on that aspect of it. There was substance there, but there was definitely a lot of poetry. There was a lot of response from the audience. I think people did really, really love it. I think it inspired people in the audience. And I know from speaking to some of those around her that they really felt that this speech today was going to be key to show off her desire indeed to bring out poetry in the way she campaigns. I think it was a very strong speech as well because it was a very inclusive one. She said, I will be your president if you vote for me or if you don't. And that got a lot of applause from the audience. This is quite the sight, quite the party. A lot of balloons, a lot of confetti.
I think this is my 8th political convention in America, and I never get tired of watching the balloons come down at the end of it. It's like, phew, we've got to the end, and this is the celebratory moment.
It's an amazing sight.
And they are left waiting for a rather large pile of balloons on the stage. They're going to have to kick those off. I did think it was interesting, Kim, listening to the speech, and you wondered whether how much different the speech was that she gave tonight was because of Bernie Sanders. There were definite nods throughout the speech. There were moments where there were pockets of protesters in this crowd because of Bernie Sanders, but there were definitely nods to Bernie Sanders and to his economic policies.
Absolutely, and she made very clear at the beginning of this speech that he had inspired millions of Americans. And I think that was very important to acknowledge. I think they're getting a little bit drowned by all the balloons there. I guess it is a party.
Another thing about political conventions, usually the arenas are bigger, and so in my memory, the balloons do not fall quite as much as a sea.
They're going to start popping, and I will startle. But I think yes, absolutely. There were some boos in the audience. There were hecklers. They were usually overshadowed by the Hillary crowd, who started chanting louder than them. Bernie Sanders today asked his delegates to be respectful of Hillary Clinton. So all in all, the moments of division were rare. But this is a challenge for her because there was also a lot in her speech that will not go down well with the far left, with the Bernie supporters, when she talked about war against ISIS, when she talked about American power, America's role in the world. And that is the balance that she is going to have to strike continuously during this campaign, to keep the base, the far left, the Bernie supporters on her side, while also trying to appeal to a moderate center, which she and her campaign believe they can grab in this election. They do feel that they can broaden the base for a Democratic presidential candidate.
Clinton's advisors often say that she's one of the most well-known people in America who's not actually understood and known at all. Do you think that what Hillary Clinton did tonight will have helped her? And I guess this is, the critical issue in the end, is how many voters did she win over? Did she manage to persuade people who were undecided about her to come out and vote for her in November?
I think it's interesting that from the television ratings, the Democratic convention got more viewers than the Republican convention. And they'll be hoping that this is going to give her a bump in the polls. They'll be hoping that this is going to give her momentum going into this race. I spoke to a few people on the floor earlier on, and several of them mentioned that they did feel that this would catapult her forward. Did she win any undecided? It's possible. Remember, people know Hillary Clinton in a certain way, and throughout this convention, every single day you have had people on this stage who have been trying to present a different aspect of her, whether it's the mother, the grandmother, as we heard today from Chelsea Clinton, whether it's the young daughter of illegal immigrants, undocumented immigrants in the country, who was on stage, a 9-year-old, talking about how Hillary Clinton had connected with her and promised her that she would do everything she could for her. Those are the moments that, in essence, humanize her. And then, of course, you had Bill Clinton's extraordinary speech
and
yesterday.
Even more than Bill Clinton, I thought, in some ways, if the aim of the convention and the thing that the campaign feels it needs to do is to personalize Hillary Clinton, then I was surprised by how effective I thought Chelsea Clinton's speech was, where she and what specifically was so effective about it were these concrete moments that she described of Hillary Clinton taking a time before a speech to FaceTime with her granddaughter or leaving notes for Chelsea Clinton. I think those are images of Hillary Clinton that most viewers and most voters have never seen in the country.
I've seen those moments when I traveled with her when she was Secretary of State, and I followed her at the State Department. You know, she had a lot of those moments with people she met on the road, because she didn't just have meetings with foreign officials. She had a lot of meetings with, young people in the various countries she visited. She was very warm. She hugged people. She listened to their stories. And I think she is much more comfortable on an international stage, at least so far, than she has been up until now on a domestic stage. I think the glare of the national media here in the US has, over the last few decades, really made her very, very guarded. But I think that what we saw tonight, at least what I saw, is the Hillary Clinton that I remember from traveling around the world with her. Because I noticed a real difference between that woman and the woman I started covering as a candidate. And I thought that was an interesting gap there, which I think she has bridged today in the speech she gave tonight.
You know, it's worth pointing out that one speech doesn't make or break a presidential candidacy, and Americans will watch this, and then there are another 4 months of what is going to be a very bitter election campaign, especially if both candidates decide that what they need to do is whip up fear of the other candidate amongst their own supporters. But that's not enough to win that, and she's going to have to carry on, I think, over the next 4 months, in a sense, ironically, introducing herself to the American public in the way that she did this evening, with that more personal touch. And she won't, over the next 4 months, have this supporting cast around her. She's going to have to be able to carry on doing that.
Absolutely. And I think that is often her issue. Someone like President Barack Obama, to me, seems like a consistently good campaigner, a consistently gifted speaker. With Hillary Clinton, it's a little bit different. She has moments where she is very good, and then she slides back into those, substance-driven speeches that don't necessarily inspire people.
She slipped into some of that. There's Hillary Clinton leaving the stage at the end of the Democratic National Convention here in Philadelphia. A fitting moment for us to leave the coverage as well. Hillary Clinton there on the stage after speaking for about an hour to the delegates here in Philadelphia, but of course also to audiences, millions of people who are watching around this country, some of whom have yet to make up their mind, and juggling that process that she went through of part biography and part policy, introducing herself to the American public in a more personal way than she is used to doing, and hoping, Mike, that at the end of this 4 days of the Democratic Convention, those people who had not yet decided which way to vote will have decided that she should be the next president, the first woman president, the 45th president of the United States, but the first woman president, which is what she would be. It has been a very different convention from the Republican convention in Cleveland last week. That was a convention that invoked picture of America that was dark and bleak and in peril. This week, the Democrats have made a concerted effort, and Hillary Clinton did it during this speech as well, to present a picture of America that is optimistic and hopeful. The question will be, which is the America that more American voters feel resonates with them, Mike?
Catty and Kim, thank you both very much. Now, just for people who've just joined us, so you haven't been following it on social media, let's wind this back a bit. The process of humanizing Hillary Clinton, if I can put it like that, began tonight at least with Chelsea Clinton. Try to introduce her as a mother and as a grandmother to the convention.
She's a listener and a doer. She's a woman driven by compassion, by faith, by a fierce sense of justice, and a heart full of love. So this November, I'm voting for a woman who is my role model as a mother and as an advocate. A woman who has spent her entire life fighting for families and children. I'm voting for the progressive who will protect our planet from climate change and our communities from gun violence. Who will reform our criminal justice system and who knows that women's rights are human rights, and who knows that LGBT rights are human rights here at home and around the world. I'm voting for a fighter who never, ever gives up, and who believes that we can always do better when we come together and we work together. I hope that my children will someday be as proud of me as I am of my mom. I am so grateful to be her daughter. I'm so grateful that she is Charlotte and Aiden's grandmother. She makes me proud every single day. And Mom, Grandma would be so, so proud of you tonight. To everyone watching here and at home, I know with all my heart that my mother will make us proud as our next president. This is the story of my mother, Hillary Clinton.
Chelsea Clinton there. Of course, then they went to a video, as she says, introducing her mother. One of Hillary Clinton's main themes when she got to it was a response to Donald Trump's riff that only I can fix this, only I can fix the many, many problems he cited, not only with America, but with the Middle East and much of the rest of the world, which he had blamed on Hillary Clinton. She said, only one person cannot solve the country's problems. Everyone has to work together.
Now America is once again at a moment of reckoning. Powerful forces are threatening to pull us apart. Bonds of trust and respect are fraying. And just as with our founders, there are no guarantees. It truly is up to us. We have to decide whether we will all work together so we can all rise together. Our country's motto is E pluribus unum. Out of many, we are one. Will we stay true to that motto? Well, we heard Donald Trump's answer last week at his convention. He wants to divide us from the rest of the world and from each other. He's betting that the perils of today's world will blind us to its unlimited promise. He's taken the Republican Party a long way, from morning in America to midnight in America. He wants us to fear the future and fear each other. Well, you know, a great Democratic president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, came up with the perfect rebuke to Trump more than 80 years ago during a much more perilous time. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Now, it wasn't always clear from the TV coverage, but certainly people on the convention floor will tell you Mrs. Clinton had to raise her voice at times to drown out boos from the convention floor, largely from Bernie Sanders supporters from California. So he made a strong pitch to supporters of Bernie Sanders with a series of calls to traditional Democratic issues.
If you believe that companies should share profits, not pad executive bonuses, join us. If you believe the minimum wage should be a living wage and no one working full-time should have to raise their children in poverty, join us. If you believe that every man, woman, and child in America has the right to affordable health care, join us. If you believe that we should say no to unfair trade deals, that we should stand up to China, that we should support our steel workers and auto workers and homegrown manufacturers, then join us. If you believe we should expand Social Security and protect a woman's right to make her own health care decisions, then join us. And yes, if you believe that your working mother, wife, sister, or daughter deserves equal pay, join us.
There's a problem here, of course, in this election. It seems pretty clear, as Kathy and Kim were pointing out, that millions of people no longer trust politicians, no longer trust the establishment in general. So Hillary Clinton's experience, her confidence, her Washington insider status could actually be a liability. So she made a strong appeal to voters to trust her experience and judgment in international affairs.
Anyone reading the news can see the threats and turbulence we face, from Baghdad to Kabul to Nice and Paris and Brussels, from San Bernardino to Orlando. We're dealing with determined enemies that must be defeated. So it's no wonder that people are anxious and looking for reassurance, looking for steady leadership, wanting a leader who understands we are stronger when we work with our allies around the world and care for our veterans here at home. Keeping our nation safe and honoring the people who do that work will be my highest priority.